What if I told you that one of the simplest tools you might be overlooking could drastically transform how your architecture business gets found online? I'm joined by Melanie Boyland to help you make the best use of Google Business Profiles in this episode of Architecture Business Club, the weekly podcast for solo and small firm architecture practice owners just like you who want to build a profitable, future-proof architecture business that fits around their life. I'm John Clayton, your host. If you're a small practice leader or sole practitioner in architecture, struggling to find clarity or reach your goals, consider working with me. I offer personalised one-to-one support through coaching, consulting and mentoring, and this tailored approach helps you navigate your unique path to success. Whether it's growing your practice, working fewer hours, or building your team, I've got you covered. Just click the link in the show notes to book a call with me to discuss your options, or email John, that's Jon, at architecturebusinessclub.com for more information. Now let's talk about Google Business Profiles. Melanie Boylan is an award-winning social media trainer, digital marketer, speaker, journalist and award-winning podcaster with the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast, and has been training and managing social media accounts for business since 2013. Melanie is also a Google Business Profile Specialist. To learn more about how Melanie can help you in your business, head over to stomp.ie/services. Melanie, welcome to Architecture Business Club.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. I believe that outside of work, you're quite into space and science as one of your areas of interest, aren't you? Could we talk a little bit about that?
I've always had a personal interest as a child, and then when I had my first child, I had the opportunity to share that passion with her. And we're based in the Republic of Ireland, and from a very early age, her and her younger sister were being dragged up to Birr Castle, which is an old observatory. We've got Dunsink Observatory over here in the Republic. And then up in Northern Ireland, we've got Armagh Planetarium. And then when my daughter was 9 years old, she approached me and said, I'd like to do something like you do. I'd like to write a blog or have a website or something like that. And we're talking a 9-year-old here. But we thought, let's explore this. And she came back to us and said, I'd really like to talk about space and science. So we set up a website and she started a YouTube channel and she started talking about STEM and space and science. And over the course of about 3 years, using my connections as a journalist and my passion in space and science, we managed to meet astronauts, Nora Patton and the Mars scientists. We went over to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. We just did a lot of space and sciencey related things. And she actually wrote blogs for the Armagh Planetarium and did reviews. And yeah, she did really, really well for about 3 years. And then sadly, she started secondary school, and that was also the same time as COVID hit. So that kind of all came to a standstill. But the interest is still there.
Oh, that sounds absolutely amazing. My son, my 12-year-old son, he's really into space and science as well, actually. He's got a telescope. He doesn't have a YouTube channel or anything like that, but it's definitely one of his keen interests. Actually, it's a really exciting time at the moment, isn't it? Space travel, you've got like Blue Origin and obviously you've got Virgin, Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic. Oh, what's the other big one as well? Because you've got SpaceX, that's the other one I'm thinking of. Yeah, some really exciting stuff going on in the world of space travel at the minute.
What makes it more exciting right now, though, is because we're heading back to the moon. And now we've got Gateway coming along, which is going to be incredible. That's going to then be a jumping zone from the moon directly to Mars.
Oh, wow. Do you know when the schedule to get to the moon then? What year is it that they're planning?
Yeah, it was initially scheduled for 2025, but it keeps on getting pushed out.
Yeah.
So it may still be 2025, but honestly, most people think it's going to be 26.
Yeah. It's going to be so exciting. We're going to talk today, though. We could talk about that for a while because I sort of nerd out a bit, get onto the subject of space. But we're going to talk about Google Business Profiles so that architecture firm owners can learn why they're so important and how they can make best use of them as part of their marketing strategy. So I think a really good place to start would just be with the basics. So could you tell me, what is a Google Business Profile?
It's a product of Google. So any product of Google will always get found in search first. As you know, YouTube is also a Google product as well. So that gets found in search as well. And it used to be called Google My Business, but due to a massive safety issue about 5-6 years ago, it unsurprisingly got sunsetted and replaced a year later by Google Business Profile. What it does is it helps build an online presence for you, even if you don't have a website. Now, I personally have the standpoint that you should always have a website first anyway. But if you don't have one, certainly at the beginning, Google Business Profile is a fantastic secondary place to put your business online. It can be discoverable using lots of different search terms as long as you fully optimize the profile. And it helps you get found using images, using links, because you can also put your social links up there. It can also help you get found using blogs. And obviously you've got the calls and directions as well available there.
Cool. So basically when we use Google to search for something, the Google Business Profile is like when we go on maps and we're searching for, say, a local business, that the Google Business Profile is that listing that comes up that features in Google search results, and often they're stacked right at the top. You mentioned they get prioritized. They can be right at the top of the page. And then also if we're looking on like Google Maps, those business listings that come up if we were looking for like a coffee shop or a plumber or an architect, then it's the thing that comes
referred
up.
to as the map pack. The one you're talking about there is normally in the collection of 3, and that's referred to as the map pack.
The map pack, okay, yeah. Which I guess if you're a local business, you want to be appearing in that map pack in those search results at the top of the page, don't you? Cool. So, what are the common myths around Google Business Profiles? Are there some misconceptions about them?
Most people don't realize that it's actually another social platform. They think it's just a static sort of thing you must do when you add a map to your website. Now, that's only because it's usually added or created by a website designer. And when they've gone to the trouble of actually setting it up, they've claimed the account, if you've got a business address, your business address goes in there. But it doesn't matter if you don't have a business address. A lot of us have cottage businesses or cottage industries that work from home. So you can just select a service area when you first register your business. And then as you go further on, you do have to put an address in because it's a privacy and security issue. But you can select a service area. And I think some people think that you, have to put your address in for it to work. Yes and no. You don't have to put your address in publicly. And some people think that once you've created the Google Business Profile, that's all you need to do. To a point, yes. But to make it more effective, you need to then post to it and get people to put Google Business reviews on it. And the more Google Business reviews you get on it, the faster you're found in search.
Cool. I like that. I was going to, that point you made about the address thing, I think that's worth just reiterating that there's going to be a lot of the listeners that are thinking, like, I work from home. So, can I have a Google Business Profile? Should I have a business profile? The fears of like, I don't want like customers turning up on my doorstep. But you just explained there that there's a way that you can set this up so that you don't necessarily have to share your address publicly. You can have, you called it, was it a service area that you mentioned?
Yeah. So when you're first going into setting up the account, you put in your business name, then it'll ask for your address. But you can then skip that and go to a service area, and then you can put in, a lot of people put in towns, but you can also put in counties as well if you prefer. But Google Business Profile is optimized for local search. So you can't put the whole of the UK or the whole of Ireland, because it doesn't work like that. There are ways around it. So you can develop locations. So let's say you have multiple offices, or multiple service areas potentially. So then you have to opt to put in extra locations. But then I will be honest with you, you are creating a bit of extra work for yourself unless you've got somebody who's actually going to be managing those multiple locations.
Got it. But for the average service business, that's, and in the case of our listeners, they're generally architects, architectural designers, architectural technologists that are generally a service business serving a relatively local geographic area. Most of their customers tend to gravitate to working with somebody local. So Google Business Profiles are ideal for this, aren't they? If it's a business, so you're serving around a radius around your local town or city, then if you don't have one of these set up, then you're really missing a trick by the sounds of things from what you're telling us. Could we run through some of the benefits for the average architecture practice owner or service business owner of developing their Google Business Profile? We've touched upon some of those already, I think, but could we elaborate on that a bit more?
Well, one of the massive benefits is how easy it makes to contact you, because it's normally multiple clicks when people do a Google search. If you haven't optimized your Google Business Profile in the first place, then you'll be found in a Google search. And if your details aren't in the Google Business Profile to call you, they'll have to go to one of your other social platforms or to your website, then go to Contact Now, then to find your details. Whereas if you do a Google search, get found in a local search, it just says call now or send email or send message. And so there's the instant gratification of being able to actually reach somebody immediately from the search.
Yeah. And I've had that experience where when I've been practicing architecture, that sometimes people would get in touch. They wouldn't necessarily even get to the website because they would they'd discover me through Google search, and then they'd find the Google Business Profile, and they'd just see the reviews and the call now or contact now, and then they'd just get straight in touch. If somebody's like looking for somebody and trying to get in touch with the right person, and your profile pops up there and there's some good reviews, then it can really fast track people getting into contact with you and remove some of that friction that might be in the way otherwise.
There's a couple of other things that you can get from it, because as you pointed out, there is the Google reviews that people can check through first. But there's also FAQs, frequently asked questions, and that can actually streamline somebody contacting you even better. So those are frequently asked questions that either other people can ask you, or you can actually put up your own frequently asked questions and answer them. And that can actually help get rid of the tire kickers, if you know what I mean, who aren't entirely sure what you're covering. Stomp doesn't tell you what I do, whereas my business is actually Stomp Social Media Training, but the website is stomp.ie. So just having a fuller understanding of what you do just by using those frequently asked questions can actually help eliminate that toing and froing and that time wasting that you get with people who are just wanting to clarify stuff.
That's a brilliant idea. So, and I love that you mentioned there that not only can you answer questions on your Google Business Profile, but you can ask the questions as well. So rather than, you could take your FAQ FAQs that you get, maybe you've got some on your website already, but you can put those on that Google business profile. You can ask the question and answer it. So the common, and actually thinking about, I guess, those common questions that people need answering when they get in touch. Things like, for the case of architects, it could be, what is your service area? What services do you offer? What's your pricing format? How much does the prices start from? What's the price banding? Can you help us get planning permission? How does the process work? Like there's so many questions. And I mean, even just that one thing, if people did that, that would be an amazing way to save time to answer people's questions and help them in the first instance. You repel the tire kickers, and then the people that are a good fit are the ones that are then going to hit the call now button and get in touch. I love that. That's a really good idea. And
I have one more thing. I'm sorry, I'm trying to give you all the bonuses here of having a GP account. Is you can also attach like a Calendly or an iCal or something like that. So again, you don't have to go to somebody's website with all the multiple clicks that will take. You can actually book to speak to somebody directly from the Google Business Profile. So it really is so much faster, less clicks, and it all simply gets found in a Google search.
I love that. So there's a couple of different tools you mentioned there. So these are like calendar booking tools. If people are listening and are not familiar, there are tools available. Was Calendly? Was it iCal? Was another one you mentioned?
iCal's another one. But there are paid and free versions that you can do. I've never tried putting in Google bookings, so I'm not sure if that can go in or not. But those Calendly and iCal are the ones I see most frequently, but there will be others that will have an API there.
There's another one I can throw in the mix that I recently discovered called TidyCal, which at the moment you can buy it. You have to pay for it, but it's a one-time fee of like $29 or something at the moment, rather than a monthly subscription-based fee like some of them. So if you're a small business, that might be a good one to check out and take a look at. But they're all very similar, aren't they, in how they work?
Yeah,
basically, you can link it to your calendar and, you can set the time slots that are available. But for people to be able to literally just go straight from seeing your profile in Google Search or on Google Maps, seeing hopefully your 5-star reviews, and then going, wow, this company looks amazing, I want to talk to these people, to just be able to click a button and book straight into your calendar for a conversation or a discovery call, something like that. That's really powerful. Brilliant. So was there any other features on Google Business Profiles that you think are worth mentioning, Melanie, to be able to run through? Remember, don't forget to download the Architecture Business Blueprint, the step-by-step formula to freedom for architects, architectural technologists, and architectural designers. You can grab the blueprint without any charge at architecturebusinessclub.com/blueprint. And if you're enjoying this episode, then please leave a 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Now back to the show.
One of the, I think, most interesting features, although it can be a little challenging in the same breath, is over time, once you've set up and fully filled out and optimized, and I'm sure your listeners are slowly understanding I'm saying fully optimize your profile. As you start to post onto this profile, all you need to do is post once a week to make it effective. I mean, if you want to post more, absolutely, please do. But if you're posting on your Google Business Profile once a week, I can almost guarantee you that you're doing more than your competitor is, because most of them just create it and just leave it. So that's one thing. But as you're posting, Google kind of monitor the topics that you're covering. So obviously, as a social media trainer, I know my audience is also interested in website and graphic design, conferences, events, other people's blogs, that sort of stuff. So I share other people's content as well. And over time, it will slowly add other areas that you show interest in, or it might assume that you have an interest in. So every sort of 4 to 6 months, I go back into my fully optimized Google business profile, and it says website designer. Oh, no, I'm not a website designer. So I remove that. Life coach. I'm not a life coach. So that comes out. But then other times it will give you, because let's say I say social media training, and then it will see that I've also posted about social media management. And I was like, oh, I hadn't put that in. I'll leave that in. Or managing Facebook, or it will find, the same topic written in different ways that it will slowly add in by itself. And you have to go in and make sure that it's still current and up to date. And each of those subcategories are helping you get found in search. But you do have to go in and kind of police it, because otherwise you're not managing potential customers' expectations, because they'll expect you'll be a life coach, a website designer, and a social media trainer, and you're not. So
okay, so what happens when we set our profile up? We have to choose a category.
Yeah.
So we would say the category might be, for example, architects. That could be the main category.
Yeah.
But then Google, over time, depending on what we're posting on our profile, it's making suggestions for other categories that we could also fit into.
Yeah, so it will suggest other products and services. So your category itself, you have a primary category that you set, and then you can have 2 or 3 other secondary categories. But then when you go into your products and services, you can add your own products and services. But then Google over time will say, and I think it's also populated by the fact that how people find you in a search. So it's not just they're just flinging these these topics at you. I think if people found you in a search whilst they were looking at website design or something like that, I'm only talking about mine here because I don't want to throw people off saying the wrong thing about your industry. So that's why that category is sort of allocated to your product or services, even though it's not accurate. So be careful. Once you've fully optimized it, maybe diary it for every 4 months, and go back in and just make sure that you're still managing potential customers' expectations. Because the last thing you want is to say, oh, no, I don't do that, because that disappoints people.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to the posting thing, like when we talk about posting to a Google business profile, what can we actually post? Like, can we post anything that we would post on Instagram or LinkedIn? Like, could we put a text post or a graphic or photos or videos? Like, could we literally post any type of media to our Google business profile?
I haven't found a media that you can't post. You can put podcasts, video, audio, graphics, photos, or text.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's really cool. So it's very flexible.
Yes.
And in terms of frequency, because some of the social platforms like TikTok and Instagram, they can be very content hungry machines that you have to keep feeding them, and you could end up posting several times a day even. Whereas you mentioned earlier with Google Business Profile that you don't necessarily need to post anywhere near as frequently as that. So would you say that like once a week would be enough to kind of stay ahead of everybody else?
Pretty much. What I've said to people who come in to see me is, whatever you're putting up on your other social profiles, you can literally use that to share onto your Google business profile. It can be square, it can be rectangular. Obviously, being YouTube is a product of theirs, they're more than happy to share videos. So there's really nothing that you can't put up there. And what I like as well is it's not just putting up the images. They also leave you with a call to action as well. And you can put in links. So the call to action could be buy now, learn more, call now, see offer, read blog. So there's lots of options that you can put in as a call to action. And it's simply just by adding an update when you're going into your Google Business Profile. What I haven't made very clear yet is it's accessible not just on your laptop, but also on your phone through Google Maps. It can be found in Google Maps, or it can be found in a Google search. So it really is extremely easy to access.
You're making this sound like a no-brainer that we should just all be on there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Could you share some recommendations for getting started or to improve an existing profile? What would be your top recommendations for somebody that thinks either, yeah, this sounds great, but I'm just not sure where to start, or someone that's thinking, well, we have a Google Business Profile, but like we set it up 5 years ago and have done nothing with it?
My top recommendation would be, everybody wants to get found in search. Everybody wants to have and improve their search engine optimization. And it sounds like such a complicated thing to do. Now, when you're doing a website in general, you've got to have a good understanding of keywords and focusing words and highlighting words and bolding words and, meta, and it goes on and on and on. And it's all incredibly important and very, very useful to do on your website. But if you don't have that sort of mindset or time, by simply doing it on Google Business Profile, you're already probably doing it better on your Google Business Profile than you would be doing it on your own website, unless you had certain training. So when I speak to customers, I suggest, please do get a website first. A website is really important because it's the only place where you own what you're putting up. Because we're just renting space on all of these social platforms at the end of the day. And if you can have a Google Business Profile, it's just supporting what you've got on your website, but it's more easy to find on search engine results pages. It's almost better to find it in a Google Business Profile than in your website. That's how effective it is.
I love that. So first port of call, get the website sorted, up and running if you don't have one already. And I would encourage people to, it's better to have something than nothing, yes. Even if it's just a really simple brochure site that's just got 1 or 2 pages. I think the first website build that I did, or I worked with an agency that built it for me, I was so overly ambitious. Like there were so many things I wanted to include, so many pages, and it took forever to get it done. And it was a bit of a beast to kind of keep on top of and maintain. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that complicated. So particularly if you're just starting out, like simple and clear is better than something that's, a huge overstuffed site. You can build from that, can't you, over time?
I've got to agree with you. I say to people, you do not need an all bells singing and dancing website at the beginning, unless you're an e-commerce website. I agree, you do need an all singing, all dancing. If you've got an online shop, it's got to be secure and it's got to be user friendly. But if you're just a services, which a lot of you are, you just need something that's functional, that, maybe costs under $1,000 or something like that. And then once you've got some money in the bank, then you can get somebody to update it, make it more, give it a bit more swagger, a bit more personalization, customization. Because it's normally the largest amount of money that you spend is your website. And if you spend all that money at the very beginning of your business and you struggle to go in the black after that, it can close your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think though that the idea that with Google Business Profiles that it's potentially a really easy win for people, that once you've got the website set up, and then if you set up your Google Business Profile, which you can do, like it's not hugely complex. Like I think originally I set mine up myself. Obviously you can get somebody to help you to do it if you don't have the time or you'd prefer to get some support. So listeners, feel free to contact Melanie about that. But if you did want to try and do it yourself, you can do. And as you mentioned, that once you've got it up and running, that it's not something you're having to pour like hours into every week, like potentially some of these social platforms. Just a little bit of consistency with it can really be really powerful and really increase the reach. And I can speak from first-hand experience when I've, like, over the years, had loads of inquiries that have come in from architectural clients. And I would say probably more than 75% of them came via that Google business profile. There was some that were referrals, but then even those would then, when they searched for me online, they would often come via that profile. And some of them wouldn't even get to the website because they would just get in touch. They'd see the reviews and were like, wow, this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. Let's just contact him. And they'd just get straight in touch from the Google business profile. So incredibly powerful thing that people could do for free.
Oh, yeah, it's completely free.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a no-brainer. Like, if they haven't got it set up, like, they need to just go and set it up, like, today. Melanie, is there anything else about the topic that you wanted to add that we haven't already covered?
Yes. Unfortunately, it's not possible to, at the moment, currently schedule for free using Google Business Profile. However, there are paid-for platforms that you can use. You can use a tool called Plannable, which is free, and that actually has an API that goes to Google Business Profile. But as far as I know, that's the only tool that I'm aware of that's free, that will schedule to all of your standard ones, Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, but it'll also schedule to Google Business Profile. But then if you recollect, John, LinkedIn didn't have scheduling for years and years and years and years and years of their own. Then they gave the API to everybody else. And then only very recently, they've started allowing scheduling direct.
That's right. Yeah. The scheduling thing, I mean, that can be really important to think about using scheduling, because if you're relying on just remembering to post things, you could be really busy working on delivering results for your client or on other things, or got meetings and things. And by scheduling things in advance, you can be so much more consistent. And that tool you mentioned, Plannable, I'm going to go and check that out, because that sounds like a really cool tool. And the fact that there's a free tier of it, a free version, definitely sounds worth checking out. I've previously used a paid tool called SmarterQueue, which did allow you to schedule to the Google Business Profile, but that was a paid tool. And as far as I know, they don't have a free version. So, if you're a small business, if you're a business of one or a micro-sized business, these tools can start to add up, these different paid tools. So definitely check out some of the free alternatives when you're deciding what to use. That's been really helpful. I've got one other question. It's nothing to do with Google Business Profiles. I just like to ask all of the guests on the show. I love travel and discovering new places. I was just wondering if you could share one of your favourite places and what you love about it.
Rome. I've been to Rome so many times. You can go on your own, which I have frequently. And I've gone with friends and family. And I just love the vibe there. It's so nice to be there. I normally go in September or October. It's so warm, but it's not so warm that you sort of melt in bed at night. And they just know how to have a good time in the evenings. Everywhere is open. The food is incredible. And it's not a very long flight. It's only a couple of hours. So yeah, I love Rome.
Oh, Rome, what a place. This came up actually recently. There was another guest on the show and their favourite place was Rome as well, with good reason. It's an absolutely amazing city. And I have been to Rome a long time ago. but it was in my backpacking days in my early 20s, and my trip to Rome was a very boozy week in Rome, which it did, like you mentioned about they know how to enjoy themselves. We certainly enjoyed ourselves that week. My friend and I, we had an amazing time, and we met loads of really friendly locals. And in fact, actually, that was the problem why we couldn't leave. Funnily enough, we stumbled across a bar while we were there, and the bar staff, they were so friendly. Like, we were only meant to be there about 3 days, and we ended up trapped in Rome for a whole week, because every day we went back to this bar and they kept plying us with free booze. And every day we woke up and were like, oh, can't face getting that train to the next place. Should we stay here another day? And then we ended up going back to the same bar and then getting stuck there for another day. And this happened a number of days in a row. And then after a while, the bar staff were like, you guys aren't leaving, are you? Like, you said you were leaving like 3 days ago, and like you're actually not being truthful here with us, are you? Do you like live in Rome or something? So it was pretty funny. We did eventually escape Rome, but I'm probably due another trip back there to actually do a more grown-up trip to Rome. It's a story for another podcast, I guess. So, Melanie, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your expertise. I'm really grateful for you joining me today. Where is the best place online for people to connect with you?
It would definitely be my website. Every single problem that anybody is experiencing in social media is answered on my website, which is why you should have a website, because when you're sharing posts on social, all you're doing is sharing small little excerpts of a problem, or sharing a post with a small call to action. But if I get people to go to stomp.ie/services, that's Sierra Tango Oscar Mike Papa, it's like stomp your feet.ie, because I'm based in the Republic. And you'll see a list of all my services there, and just contact me directly from there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks so much, Melanie.
Thank you for having me.
Next time, I'm joined by award-winning business coach Sigrun to talk about how you can use launches to scale and grow your business. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Architecture Business Club. If you liked this episode, think other people might enjoy it, or just want to show your support for the show, then please leave a glowing 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean so much to me and makes it easier for new listeners to discover the show. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode. If you want to connect with me, you can do that on most social media platforms. Just search for @Mr. John Clayton. The best place to connect with me online, though, is on LinkedIn. You can find a link to my profile in the show notes. Remember, running your architecture business doesn't have to be hard, and you don't need to do it alone. This is Architecture Business Club.